Welcome once again to my YouTube channel. I mentioned in my very first video that for a time in my life I lived off $80 a fortnight. I decided that today I would take you through how I managed to do that. Now, I can't remember all the exact details of everything because this was about 15 years ago, but I will do my best. So this is what I would call extreme budgeting. To give you the context of how this all came about, I live in a seasonal town. It's in the Snowy Mountains, so during the ski season there is lots of work, particularly in sort of hospitality kind of areas, which was the sort of area that I was working in. But coming into the warmer months, there is significantly less work in those kinds of industries. So I was working at a campsite that wasn't doing particularly well financially, and so at the end of the ski season they decided to just completely close down the entire campsite. So it wasn't just that I had reduced hours, I completely lost my job, and that was coming into the warmer months where it was not quite so easy to get a job. So I lost my job and was looking for work, not having any success, and because of a little bit of a misunderstanding between myself and Centrelink, I was not able to get any government support. So basically, whatever little work I could scrape up for myself was my entire income. Thankfully, I managed to get a job cleaning at nighttime, but that was only for 2 hours a week. So I was earning $40 a week. That was my $80 a fortnight. Now, how did I survive off that? Well, thankfully, I was in the fortunate position where the campsite I was at that had closed down decided to keep me on just living there, to keep an eye on the place. If the alarms went off, I would check out what was happening, just overseeing it while they were trying to sell it. So as sort of payment for that, I guess, they didn't charge me any rent or bills. So I didn't have to pay rent or bills, and I was a single person. I didn't have children or, anyone else I needed to support. So it was just me. However, I did still have a sponsor child, and I decided to me that was too important to give up. So I continued to sponsor her, which worked out to be about $10 a week. So that brought me down to $30 a week income. So how did I do it? Well, let's look at what I had that I had to pay for. So I had a car. Thankfully, in the time that I was, let's just say, out of work, like I had my 2 hours a week for my $40, but I didn't have rego in that time, and my car insurance was paid up for like the next 8 months. So didn't have to pay those, so just had to pay for petrol. I walked a lot of places, pretty much everywhere. So even going to the supermarket to get my very few groceries, the supermarket was about maybe 2 k's from where I live, so not really that far, except the way back was entirely uphill. So I would put my little backpack on and I would walk down to the supermarket, get my groceries for the week, put them in my backpack and have a bag in each hand and trudge back up that hill. If I was going to a friend's house or even to my job when I did work, I just walked. I walked everywhere. I had a phone. I was on a $25 a month prepaid plan. So that was my phone. I think I had a deal where I could call between certain hours, like there was an hour a day I could make phone calls for free. So if I needed to make a phone call, that was when it was happening. And text messages were 25 cents. If I needed to text someone and they lived less than 2 kilometers from my house, I would walk to their house to ask them the question that I needed to ask them to save myself that 25 cents. Now that might seem crazy, but I had $30 a week, so I had to make every cent stretch. And if I could save myself 25 cents, potentially 50 cents, because they might text me back with a question that I would have to answer, I would just do that. And once the credit was gone, if I didn't have money to buy more credit, I just didn't. And I just couldn't use my phone. Food was obviously the most interesting one because I still needed to eat. So the campsite that had closed down had a massive plastic container of flour and a couple of other bits and pieces left in the freezer. And the campsite said I was welcome to help myself to whatever was there. So, you know, I got through all the freezer food. I think they had like a lasagna and a couple of other things. Then I had the flour left over. And I had some friends who had some chickens and they would give me eggs for free. So I was just buying milk and I was eating a lot of pancakes. Like I said, this was over the summer months. There were a lot of fruit trees around town. So I would go around picking fruit. Mostly I was living off blackberries and apples. Don't worry, the blackberries weren't sprayed, so I was fine. Another favourite of mine was boiled rice with half a tin of sweet corn. So tins of sweet corn were about 70 cents and a little bit of salt. Yep, that would be my lunch. It was a flavour sensation. But when you don't have a lot of money, you do what you can. So I was still having fruit and vegetables and there wasn't a whole lot of protein. So yeah, meals were just very simple. But you do what you can, and I still ate, and I actually love pancakes, so that was fine for me. I quite enjoyed my pancakes. And I also love a good cup of tea. I decided that I would just have slightly weaker tea and use my tea bags more than once. So I would make my cup of tea and then sit my tea bag on the windowsill to dry out and then use it again. Because I still wanted to continue enjoying my tea, even though that was, at the time, quite a luxury item. So my tea stretched for at least twice as long because I was using the tea bag at least twice. If my shoes started falling apart, I stuck them back together. If my clothes got holes in them, I sewed them up. I didn't go out and do a whole lot of things, but I still spent time with friends. We went down to the river and we went swimming. That's free. I would go around to their houses and they would come to my house. We would play board games and card games, so still had lots of fun, still enjoyed life with good friends. One thing that potentially was keeping me alive was my church was running a drop-in centre and there was a cafe as part of that. They needed volunteers to run it. It was not for profit. To be honest, I think it was not for even covering the cost of their expenses. So they certainly couldn't afford to pay me, but I volunteered there. I think it was like 1 or 2 days a week I went in just to work in the cafe. And as a thank you for that, I was able to make myself a meal. So that would be something quite hearty, like a hamburger and chips and something like that. But it was also good for me because it was giving me work experience. I'd never worked in a cafe before. So I learned how to make barista coffees and things like that, which did me well for my next job. And I also learned how to cook all the meals and sort of time manage. So that was a really good experience for me. And basically, yeah, that's how I did it. I didn't buy a whole lot, I didn't do a whole lot, and my food was very simple. Obviously, most of you will never find yourself in such a desperate situation. I certainly hope you never do. But during that time, it was hard, but it was okay. I was still able to enjoy life, and I didn't starve to death, and I did make it through. And it really made me appreciate what I did have once I got a job. So at the end of February, McDonald's was looking for workers, and I never ever wanted to work at McDonald's, but I'm like, I will take whatever I can get. So I got a job there. That was when McCafe was just starting up. So my experience at the cafe with making coffees came in really handy. I was only getting maybe 2 or 3 days a week, but that was fine because that was a heck of a lot more money than what I was earning previously. And then as soon as winter hit, I was doing 12-hour days. So I was earning stacks of money. And financially, life was good from there. So I've found in my life, no matter what financial situation I have found myself in, there is always a way forward. So I hope that can give you a bit of encouragement that even if it does look really dire, there is a way through. So I'm not sure if any of that will really help you necessarily with budgeting tips. It's just a little bit of assurance that you can find yourself in a situation that may look impossible, but there may be a way through it. So keep your head up and continue to count the blessings that you do have. And I was very blessed to still have a roof over my head, to have friends to enjoy life with, and to have pancakes and cups of tea. See you next time.
I'm the husband.